The battlefield fell silent in an instant. A nascent soul had perished body soul, and escape all erased by a single streak of golden lightning. In that moment, every cultivator finally understood. The quiet young man standing among them was not a pawn of fate, but a calamity that even immortals should fear. If you enjoy my way of explaining and storytelling, don't forget to like and subscribe. It really motivates me to keep creating. When the old man saw that the scroll had been reduced to tatters, his complexion instantly drained of all color. It was clearly damaged beyond any hope of repair. What a pity, the black-robed figure said with a trace of regret in his voice. If fellow Taoist Ku Yao had not been in such a hurry to break free, and had not consumed his fire spirit's vitality merely to stall for time, that cultivator's magic power would have been completely exhausted. He would have been forced to disperse the formation diagram on his own. The shriveled cultivator pondered for a brief moment before slowly nodding in agreement. Now that the spell warrior had broken free, Old Man Ma's face turned an unhealthy pallor as he clutched the damaged scroll tightly in his hand. He hurriedly stowed it into his storage pouch, then cast a venomous glare toward Ku Yao. Ku Yao snorted coldly in response, causing the flood dragon beneath him to surge once more with blazing flames and crimson radiance. At that moment, the shriveled spell warrior suddenly shouted from above, "Sage Ku Yao, stop!" He then turned his gaze toward the cultivators of Heavenly South and said calmly, "How about ending this battle here? Both sides have nearly exhausted their magic power. Continuing will accomplish nothing." The bald man was momentarily taken aback. After exchanging a glance with Gu Shuangpu, he slowly nodded. "Very well, let this battle come to an end." Although Old Man Ma felt somewhat unwilling, he knew that persisting would be futile. With no better option, he withdrew and flew back. Ku Yao was equally displeased, his expression dark as he reluctantly recalled his flood dragon and returned to the ranks of the spell warriors. After Old Man Ma descended, the bald man offered him a few words of consolation, easing the tension that had been etched upon the old man's face. However, at that very moment, the black-robed spell warrior and the shriveled old man were quietly muttering to one another. Soon after, the black-robed figure gently floated forward, arriving at the site of the earlier battle. His gloomy gaze swept over the surrounding cultivators, a trace of contempt flickering through his eyes. In a hoarse, chilling voice, he declared, "This time you will be facing me. Let me make this clear. First, this battle will not end until someone dies. Do not harbor any delusions of stopping it midway." The black-robed figure's arrogant words instantly enraged Gu Shuangpu and the bald man, yet neither dared to step forward. They both knew that two nascent soul cultivators had already fallen to these strange spell warriors. Valuing their lives greatly, they hesitated. "I'll test him," Han Li said indifferently. The bald man blinked in surprise upon seeing Han Li volunteer, but he soon let out a sigh of relief inwardly. "Ah, if fellow Taoist Han wishes to go, then please be careful. Should anything seem amiss, we will naturally rush to your aid." Han Li merely smiled and said nothing more. Azure light surged from his body as he shot through the sky. In the blink of an eye, he arrived before the black-robed figure, standing calmly in mid-air with his hands clasped behind his back. The black-robed figure studied Han Li for a moment. Then, in a grotesque display, his eyes gradually shifted from pitch black to a sinister green. Han Li narrowed his eyes slightly and asked, "Are you a demon? Or a ghost? You think this old man isn't human?" The black-robed figure chuckled coldly. At the same time, threads of inky black chi began to coil around his body. Ghostly wails echoed through the air as frigid yin winds howled outward. Han Li took a shallow breath and replied calmly, "So you were once human. It seems you've chosen to cultivate a demon or ghost Tao." "Humph, Junior, you spout far too much nonsense," the black-robed old man sneered. "There's no need to probe any further. You'll soon die by my hand. Don't waste your breath." As he spoke, black chi surged violently, nearly swallowing his entire figure from view. "I don't have the patience to toy with you," the black-robed old man laughed sinisterly. "I'll take your life now." He formed an incantation with his hands, and in an instant, his body swelled to an enormous height of nearly 6 meters. Though the swirling yin qi obscured much of his form, 2 curved horns could be faintly seen protruding from his robes, along with sharp fangs glinting coldly. It was no wonder so many cultivators believed this unfamiliar spell warrior to be some kind of transformed monstrosity. Han Li's eyes gleamed with azure light, clearly revealing the ferocious appearance of the towering figure. What Han Li was startled. The demonic visage before him was identical to the phantoms of the 6 apex devils he had once encountered when battling the disciple of Archant Six Paths. "What relationship do you have with Archant Six Paths?" Han Li asked sharply. After a brief moment of surprise, the gigantic man grinned wickedly. "Archsaint Six Paths. Who is that don't think your meaningless prattle will buy you time? Accept your death." He raised his hand and scattered the surrounding black chi, sending a black object shooting toward Han Li. The instant it left the shroud of chi, it flashed with dark light and vanished without a trace. Han Li's expression sank as he abruptly retreated 10 meters backward. At the same time, a massive ghostly claw materialized where he had just been standing, striking as though it had emerged directly from the void. Yi, the demonic giant, exclaimed in surprise upon missing his attack. Han Li glanced at the ghost claw and said indifferently, "Not bad. Although you aren't a true ghost Dao cultivator and instead practice devil Dao techniques, your methods are remarkably similar. Anyone who mistook you for a ghost cultivator would surely suffer." The towering demonic figure remained motionless, staring coldly at Han Li. Suddenly Han Li frowned and blurred 10 meters to the side. Another green ghost claw silently struck the position he had occupied just moments earlier. After missing twice in succession, the huge man could no longer remain composed. "Since you dodged 2 of my attacks," he demanded, "have you encountered ghost cultivators before?" "Of course," Han Li replied with a faint smile, speaking a half-truth. "Otherwise, how could I dodge so easily?" So you're quite experienced," the demonic giant sneered. "But even if you know, I cultivate devil Dao techniques. What of it? Before the might of the Heaven Flash Devil Arts, you will die in an instant." As he spoke, he suddenly released a piercing whistle shrill enough to split stone. Han Li's calm expression finally turned solemn. The black chi surrounding the giant began to spin violently. An overwhelming surge of devilish energy erupted out of nowhere, and the huge figure burst forth from the vortex, leaving after-images as he appeared directly before Han Li. With a slight motion of his arms, countless black-green claw phantoms erupted outward, forming an impenetrable storm around Han Li. It was clear he intended to tear Han Li into countless pieces. Han Li took a deep breath, an odd expression flickering across his face as he remained rooted in place. He brought his palms together, then spread them apart. Instantly, a net of golden lightning formed around him. Thunder roared through the air as Han Li gazed calmly at the incoming claws, utterly fearless. Without hesitation, the demonic figure commanded the claw phantoms to strike. In his mind, ordinary devilish arts could indeed be restrained by lightning techniques, but the Heaven Flash Devil arts were no common method. They should not be suppressed by such trivial lightning. Yet the cultivator before him clearly possessed unusual insight, stirring a sense of unease. It was best to eliminate him immediately. Before he could finish this thought, searing heat suddenly surged through his claws, followed by unbearable pain. Brilliant golden light burst forth, shattering the claw phantoms as the lightning net advanced toward him. Trapped with no way to defend himself, a long-forgotten legend surfaced in his mind. When he had first learned this devilish art, his master had repeatedly warned him of its greatest nemesis. But after cultivating the Heaven Flash Devil arts without encountering any true rivals, he had long since dismissed those warnings. Golden lightning. Impossible. It's too similar, don't tell me. His expression turned rigid with terror as his heart plunged. Unwilling to sit idle before impending doom, he let out a furious howl. His massive body suddenly shrank, collapsing into a dwarf, barely 1 meter tall, barely buying him time before the golden net descended. In that fleeting moment, his shrunken body fluctuated violently, then exploded into countless strands of black light that scattered in all directions. A cold glint flashed through Han Li's eyes. Without warning, he shook his hands and sent a bolt of lightning crashing into the golden net. Instantly, countless arcs of lightning erupted across its surface, causing the net to constrict violently. At the same time, each strand of black chi collided head-on with the golden lightning. With a deafening flash, the golden lightning incinerated the black threads into nothingness. Every strand that was burned away was accompanied by a shrill, miserable scream filled with agony. Before long, the remaining black threads recoiled toward the center of the golden net, rapidly condensing into a glossy black demon nascent soul. Terror was written plainly across its face. It opened its mouth and spat out wave after wave of pitch-black yin qi, which hurriedly layered around its body in a desperate attempt to keep the divine devilbane lightning at bay. Han Li's face remained expressionless, save for a fleeting sneer that appeared and vanished in an instant. From his hand he released another bolt of lightning, so dazzling and brilliant that it was nearly impossible to look at directly. The lightning engulfed the demon nascent soul completely. A final heart-rending shriek rang out. Moments later, the rolling thunder faded away, leaving behind an eerie silence. Seeing this, Han Li finally let out a quiet sigh of relief. He retracted the remaining lightning and calmly retrieved a pitch-black storage pouch. Raising his head, he swept an indifferent gaze across the spell warriors above. Then, with azure light shimmering around his body, he descended back toward the heavenly south cultivators. After only a brief exchange of words, Han Li had exterminated his opponent with divine devilbane lightning at a speed that defied belief. Not only were the heavenly south cultivators left dumbfounded, but the Mulan spell warriors were utterly shaken. Although the heavenly south cultivators did not know the precise origins of the black-robed figure, they had a general understanding. These mysterious spell warriors had clearly arrived from a distant continent. While their sudden appearance on the Mulan plains remained unexplained, it was evident that they had reached some form of agreement with the three divine sages of the Mulan tribes. Even more alarming was the fact that these cultivators possessed strength far beyond others of the same realm before the true war had even begun. Two nascent soul cultivators from Heavenly South had already fallen, bolstering the confidence of the two Mulan divine sages. As for why the black-robed figure had entered the second battle, it was because he believed there were simply too many nascent soul cultivators guarding the grand formation. He intended to seize the opportunity to eliminate one first. Yet who could have imagined that this seemingly ordinary young man would kill him so effortlessly without even allowing his nascent soul to escape? The shock this caused the two spell warriors was beyond words. When the shriveled spell warrior and Ku Yao finally recovered their composure, they exchanged a fearful glance. For a moment they hesitated, unsure whether to continue the battle or first quell the unrest spreading through their ranks. Just then, a faint voice, so soft it was nearly imperceptible, sounded directly beside their ears. "Withdraw for now. Our momentum has already been lost. Let us reconsider our plans tomorrow. By then, that formation may already be... Hehe. Heaven Weep's death will be inconvenient, but I will personally explain the matter to the divine sages." The voice was calm and indifferent, yet it carried an unmistakable authority that brooked no disobedience. The shriveled man and Ku Yao were momentarily stunned. Soon after, they suppressed their shock and immediately issued orders to the spell warriors under their command. Amid some commotion, the army turned about and began a slow, orderly retreat. The two divine sages naturally remained at the rear, their expressions dark as they watched the cultivators withdraw. Before leaving, they cast a particularly cold glare toward Han Li. Gu Shuangpu watched the retreating spell warrior army and asked uncertainly, "Should we pursue them?" "Let them go," the bald man replied, shaking his head. "Although they are retreating, they have not truly been defeated. If we pursue recklessly, we may end up surrounded. More importantly, we must guard the grand formation. It is better to conserve our strength and bide our time. The 1,000 soundform formation of the Yellow Dragon Mountains is not so easily broken. If the Mulan wish to seize it, they will need at least twice their current forces." After saying this, the bald man could not help but turn his gaze toward Han Li. Because of the shock brought by Han Li's swift execution of the black-robed cultivator, an awkward silence settled over the group. None of them quite knew what to say. At this moment, Han Li wore a faint smile as he casually toyed with the black storage pouch in his hands. In the past, Han Li's faint smiles rarely stirred any emotion among these cultivators. But now, after witnessing him slay a nascent soul cultivator, that same smile inspired an inexplicable sense of depth and unease, especially since any prior contempt they held toward him had completely vanished. The bald man finally broke the silence with a smile. "Fellow Taoist Han, congratulations on slaying a high-grade spell warrior. I will be sure to report your achievement to the Nine Nations Alliance. You will most certainly be rewarded handsomely." Old Man Ma and Gu Shuangpu also offered their congratulations. Yet Han Li's expression remained as subdued as ever, despite the unmistakable respect and admiration in their voices. As if indifferent to it all, Han Li merely exchanged a few polite words. His gaze then unconsciously lingered on one of them. When no one noticed, a faint, inscrutable smirk appeared on his lips. Once the spell warrior army vanished from sight, the bald man opened a passage through the mist below. The group hastily departed, and the mist soon sealed itself once more. The Yellow Dragon Mountains returned to their former tranquility. After returning to the hall, Hanley and the others briefly discussed the events of the day before each returned to their respective residences to rest. Old Man Ma, in particular, had not only lost a treasured artifact, but had also suffered significant damage to his vitality. He urgently needed to recover. In the blink of an eye, only the bald man remained in the hall. He sat in the main chamber, head lowered, lost in thought. After a short while, his brows suddenly twitched, and a strange expression crossed his face. "Who's there?" he called out softly. "Come out." With a flash of light, another figure appeared in the hall. "Ha ha ha, Brother Lu's abilities are truly profound," the newcomer said with a chuckle. "I had only just arrived, yet you already sensed me. No wonder the Nine Nations Alliance entrusted you alone with guarding the formation." The bald man frowned. Why aren't you resting? Why return in such a furtive manner?" "It's nothing," the man replied calmly. "I merely discovered a secret and felt it necessary to discuss it with you." The bald man studied him carefully, then asked with confusion, "A secret? What secret?" "Fellow Taoist Han of the Drifting Cloud Sect is very likely a spy for the Mulan," the man said without hesitation, slowly walking forward. The bald man burst out laughing, disbelief written all over his face. "A spy? Are you out of your mind? Fellow Taoist Han just slew a nascent soul spell warrior today. The idea is absurd." "I knew Brother Lu would not believe me," the man sighed bitterly. "But I have evidence. Once you see it, you'll know I'm telling the truth." With that, he summoned a jade slip in a flash of light and stepped closer. The bald man's expression turned solemn as he stood up and accepted the jade slip. The instant it touched his hand, his expression changed drastically. A fierce look flashed in his eyes. In a burst of green light, the jade slip transformed into a small emerald-green snake. It struck like lightning, sinking its fangs into the bald man's wrist. Shock filled his face. He did not even have time to cry out before collapsing lifelessly to the floor, his complexion rapidly turning black-violet. Joy flickered across the man's face as he murmured, "The twin-tailed jade serpent truly lives up to its reputation. Its poison is no less potent than that of the 10 supreme poisons. Once bitten, even a nascent soul loses all power to escape. If this snake could fly, it would be an absolutely terrifying killing method." He stepped forward to examine the corpse, which was already beginning to melt. The small dark green serpent withdrew its fangs and slithered away, revealing the 2 slender tails on its back. The twin tails struck the ground and it leapt neatly into its master's palm. Coiling around itself, it flicked its purple-black tongue, its eyes glowing with an eerie green light. With a casual wave of his hand, the man retrieved the corpse's storage pouch. His expression turned eager as he probed it with his spiritual sense, clearly searching for something specific. A moment later, the man murmured in a low voice, "Impossible. Where is the command medallion? I clearly saw him place it inside the storage pouch." His expression darkened. With a resentful snort, he overturned the pouch and shook it violently. Various items tumbled out and scattered across the floor. Nothing more than a pile of inferior magic tools and a handful of low-grade spirit stones. The instant he clearly saw what lay before him, his complexion turned ashen. A flash of green light burst from his body, and without uttering another word, he shot toward the hall's exit in a streak of light. A long, quiet sigh echoed through the hall. In the next instant, silver light flickered along every wall. Waves of silvery radiance surged forth, weaving together into a massive barrier that sealed the hall completely. With a cold snort, the man showed no intention of stopping. He slapped his waist and summoned a jet-black pangolin spirit beast, commanding it to crash straight into the light barrier. Bang! With a muffled explosion, the spirit beast was violently repelled, rebounding backward as the barrier remained completely unscathed. Alarm flickered across the man's face. Gritting his teeth, he suddenly spat out a blue trident from his mouth. In the blink of an eye, the magical treasure split into 2 identical copies, then merged once more into a thick streak of blue light that slammed into the barrier. Boom! The blue radiance was reflected back violently, sent flying over 10 meters before crashing onto the ground, spinning wildly. "There's no need for Brother Gu to exhaust himself like this." The bald man's calm voice echoed throughout the hall. This place is the very core of the Yellow Dragon Mountains Grand Formation. Naturally, it is guarded by the strongest restrictions. Don't think you can simply leave. The blue light faded, revealing Gu Shuangpu of the controlling spirit sect. His face was deathly pale, his gaze dark and stormy as he struggled to suppress his agitation. "So you didn't die," he said coldly. "You used a flesh puppet." I had once heard that within the Nine Nations Union, there was a mysterious cultivator skilled in refining corpse puppets, identical to himself, so perfect that even the true body couldn't be distinguished from the fake. I never expected such rumors to be true. A flash of white light flickered, and the bald man revealed himself inside the hall. Standing beyond the barrier, he glanced briefly at Gu Shuangpu before turning his gaze to the ruined corpse on the floor. As expected of Brother Gu, well informed about the Nine Nations Union, even regarding doppelganger puppets, he said calmly, "That's right. What you killed was merely a corpse puppet under my control. Even a nascent soul cultivator such as yourself couldn't detect anything amiss from its appearance." "Humph, nonsense," Gu Shuangpu sneered. "If I hadn't refrained from probing it too closely with my spiritual sense for fear of alerting you, I would never have been deceived. Besides, even after meticulously cultivating the twin-tailed jade serpent for several hundred years, its poison should never have been sufficient to kill a nascent soul cultivator outright. I only intended to seriously injure you. Seeing you perish in a single strike made me overestimate its toxicity. It seems I've grown arrogant." Though his tone was icy, a faint trace of regret flickered deep within his eyes. The bald man replied emotionlessly, "Heh. I merely commissioned the puppet on a whim. I never truly expected a corpse to be refined so perfectly into my likeness. Still, trading that puppet to uncover Brother Gu as a traitor was well worth the spirit stones it cost." Gu Shuangpu's cheek twitched. He fell silent for a moment before speaking coldly. "From the way you speak, it seems you already knew I would come looking for you and prepared a substitute in advance. Did you discover something suspicious after I arrived at the Yellow Dragon Mountains?" The bald man shook his head. "Of course not. How could I suspect an elder of the controlling spirit sect without reason? I merely received a warning from someone else. I wasn't certain at first, but now it's been confirmed." He turned toward the sides of the hall and called out loudly, "Fellow Taoist Han Brother Ma, please come out." Gu Shuangpu's gloomy composure finally shattered. Alarm flashed across his face. In a burst of yellow light from both sides of the hall, Han Li emerged calmly, accompanied by Old Man Ma, whose expression was grave. With visible sorrow, Old Man Ma said heavily, "I never imagined fellow Taoist Gu would go this far. What kind of benefits did the Mulan offer you to make you commit such madness?" Gu Shuangpu stared at him and snorted coldly. "Madness? I was born among the Mulan tribes. How could my decision possibly be madness? You're from the Mulan." The others couldn't help but exclaim in shock. "Of course," Gu Shuangpu replied, a crazed light igniting in his eyes. "Did you think mere benefits were enough to sway a nascent soul cultivator like me? You Heavenly South cultivators should understand how scarce cultivation resources are on the Mulan Plains. Countless talented low-grade spell warriors stagnate for life due to a lack of spirit stones and medicinal pills. They wither into bones within 100 years, unable to cultivate under proper conditions. Why should you, Heavenly South cultivators, monopolize such fertile lands, while we are forced to scrape by with pitiful scraps? So long as the Mulan acquire the cultivation resources of Heavenly South, within 100 years, the number of spell warriors will double. With that strength, we will defeat the soaring tribe's immortals and reclaim dominion over the entire Mulan Plains." Hearing this, the others exchanged troubled glances. Han Li spoke calmly, "Defeat the soaring tribe's immortals. It seems the Mulan once suffered a devastating defeat at their hands, and now most of the plains are occupied by those immortal masters. Is that why you've staked everything on invading Heavenly South?" How do you know this?" Gu Shuangpu froze, then suddenly realized something and glared viciously at Han Li. "You eavesdropped on my sound transmissions with Sage Le." Han Li replied indifferently. "It seems Brother Gu realized rather quickly. But don't blame me who told you to conduct voice transmissions so brazenly in my presence. With my slightly stronger spiritual sense, I happened to overhear them and informed fellow Taoist Lu." Gu Shuangpu's face turned pale as he stared rigidly at Han Li. "Good, very good. All my secrets laid bare. I've hidden in Heavenly South for so long, only to fall due to such a careless mistake. and slightly stronger spiritual sense, he sneered. Far too modest. Our secret voice transmission techniques far surpass ordinary methods. Unless your spiritual sense rivals that of a late nascent soul cultivator, eavesdropping would have been impossible. Late nascent soul old man Ma cried out in alarm. The bald man was equally shaken and glanced at Han Li in astonishment. Han Li frowned briefly, not expecting this revelation to expose the strength of his spiritual sense. Soon, however, his expression relaxed, leaving the others uncertain after all. It was hard to believe an early nascent soul cultivator could possess such formidable perception. The bald man finally tore his gaze away from Han Li and coldly addressed Gu Shuangpu within the barrier. Now that your identity as a spy has been confirmed, don't blame us for being ruthless. I would have preferred to spare your life and hand you over to the Union's enforcers. But with a great war looming, we cannot afford such risks. He flipped his hand, summoning a command medallion that shimmered with silver light. Raising it high, he sent a beam of radiance into the barrier. The light was absorbed instantly, and the barrier erupted into countless blooming silver flowers, each exquisitely beautiful. Gu Shuangpu's expression turned ghastly as he stared at them like venomous insects. Without hesitation, he slapped several points on his body, erecting layers of multicolored light. At the same time, he pointed at the blue trident, which spun above his head, forming a defensive blue barrier. As the silver flowers burst and filled the enclosure, the bald man turned away indifferently and said solemnly to Han Li and Old Man Ma, "Let's go. There's nothing worth watching." No matter how high his cultivation, he won't endure these restrictions for long. His soul will soon be destroyed. We still need to handle the aftermath. Even if he was a Mulan spy, he was still an elder of the controlling spirit sect. The Union will require an explanation. That's all for today's content. See you in the next part. Support me by becoming a member. It will give me more motivation. Thank you so much.